All right, welcome to today's live stream. In this live stream, I'm going to be working actually on a commission sculpture that somebody hired me to do, and it's of these figures. Let's see, male and female figure embracing, and just kind of an interesting design. Here you can see the stone base that I'll be using as a base for this. Is kind of a rough cut stone, black Utah marble from another sculpture I was working on, and so that'll be the base. I'll be drilling it, or not drilling, but cutting a slice out of it, and then placing this in and epoxying it in place once I'm done with the sculpture. Right now, so far I've been working in this polymer clay, and I've just recently baked it. I did that yesterday, and then I also used some epoxy mixed with a little bit of stone dust from this stone to solidify the, or to attach the base to this wire that is part of the design for the sculpture. Today, hopefully getting a little bit more into the details for areas where I need to remove some of this this clay that's already hardened. I've hardened it in the oven. I have an X-Acto knife if I need to. There's usually some areas where there's a little bit too much clay and needs to be removed. But hopefully I'll be working into the details a little bit more. This is, it'll be a quicker study. It's not going to be like super detailed, but I do want to get it to where the features are in place. We'll work on things like the feet and things like that. So if you guys are watching and have any questions, please let me know as I'm working, and I'll try to answer those as we go along. And other than that, I'll probably just be working. And let me make sure that I can monitor everything. Yeah, it's looking good. Oh, let me record actually too. I'm gonna also turn the heater on a little bit to warm things up. It's a little bit cold today, and it's raining outside quite a bit. You might hear that a little bit. There, you can hear that heater going. Hopefully that's not too distracting. But that just helps to keep the clay from getting too cold. It gets a little bit stiff as it's cold. And this is just Sculpey, gray Sculpey that I'm using. I want to just clean up areas, and then I'll be adding some Sculpey to these armatures. Here you can see where I've added some wire. This will be where the feet are coming off. And I'll probably end up cutting that wherever I want to end the feet. Let's see that. Go there. This one. So he says, thank you, Andrew. Well, I don't know what you're saying thank you for, but you're welcome, I guess. Maybe for doing the live stream. Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a while since I've been on doing a live stream. I was trying to do one yesterday, but the internet connection wasn't going through, and so I just had to, I just recorded it. But hopefully I'll be putting up a video of the process. This has been a fun process for this particular sculpture. It's been a fun, enjoyable project. And I appreciate the commission, the person that hired me to do the commission, because I always like to do these kinds of projects. Hello, somebody says hello. Welcome to the stream. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll try to answer those as I go. Gotta warm this up just a little bit. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. Just trying to move things, and then everything goes crazy. Sometimes when I'm taking the polymer clay and adding it on to a sculpture that's already been hardened a little bit, I find it a little bit difficult to get a good solid connection. I don't know if that's just me, or if there's supposed to be something that you add to the surface of the hardened polymer clay to make it more tacky or sticky to stick to the newer stuff. I'm sure they have something out there that does that, but whatever it is, I don't have it, or some type of oil or something that helps it to stick. Guess I could look it up. That would be something to ask or to look up. Let's see. Someone says, hi, it's nice to see you live. Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Tips on having more control over the form when you're working small scale, or is it just mileage? Yeah, tips on working small. Well, when I'm working small like this by hand, I guess it's just a lot of it's, well, you could do more by hand than you usually realize. People want to jump into tools, using tools, I feel like, too quickly. But if you're thoughtful on how you build up the forms in clay, you can actually do quite a bit with just by hand. So I would recommend, as much as you can, do by hand. It's the quickest way, it's the fastest. And just be careful where you're adding clay, because as you add it, it's easier to build up things like the negative spaces by adding clay around them than by adding too much clay and then removing with a tool. So that's why I would just be careful where you add. Make sure you're adding at place where it needs more clay. So he says, I have the same issue, probably talking about the like getting the polymer clay to stick to the old, or the hard to stick to the soft stuff, the new stuff that you're putting on. Yeah, I know that there's probably an oil that you can put on that would help it. Your thought on polyvinyl chloride PVA clay? I've heard of it. I haven't used it yet, so that's maybe another video I should do on my series. Will It Sculpt? The Will It Sculpt series is where I go and try different materials. Some materials that are meant for sculpting, some materials are just like random stuff. Like I did one that was just, what is it? It's like, wasn't plumber's putty, but it was just kind of like a hardware type putty that I tried to sculpt with a little bit. And sometimes it's fun to try different materials, see their advantages and disadvantages. I wish that the feel for sculpting with polymer clay was just a little bit more like when I'm sculpting with microcrystalline wax. I really like especially sculpting by hand, I really like the feel of microcrystalline wax. I basically learned that it's just ultra soft polymer clay. Oh, so it bakes, so the PVA clay, you can just bake it. Well, yeah, maybe I should try that because I sometimes find the firmness and the lack of, let me turn off the lack of tackiness just doesn't work the same as some other types. So maybe when I'm doing these by hand, I should try a softer. I should give that PVA clay a try. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I'll have to look into that, give it a try. Let's see. I actually might want to, try to think. I'm gonna try to, this aluminum wire is sometimes it's hard for the clay to grab on, so I'm just going to take this knife and score this a little bit just to give the clay something to grab onto. Another thing I could do is wrap thinner wire around it, which is what I would do if I had some on hand, but I don't have any with me right now. But I'll just score this and see if that helps the clay to stick. Yeah, but it's a bit flexible, talking about the PVA clay, even after baking, sort of like rubber. Oh, interesting. Oh, okay. So it's like some people use it for like costume stuff. I think I've heard that, like for costume building, because it has a little bit of flexibility to it. So you can use it for like suits and things, or I think I have seen some of that. I wonder what do you know what the cost comparison is per pound? I wonder if it's similar or if it's a cheaper or more expensive than polymer clay. I'm gonna do the same thing on this other side. Just scoring it so that the new clay has something to grab. Yeah, it's used for dioramas too. Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'll have to give it a try. I also want to try epoxy clay. I haven't tried that one yet either. And that's another popular one that I've seen. I was going to use that for this project, but then the project ended up being smaller than I originally thought, so I decided I would do a polymer clay so that I didn't have to wait for the epoxy clay to arrive. So I could work on it beforehand. So I'm just going and roughing up this aluminum wire. The knife is harder, quite a bit harder than the aluminum, so it's not too hard to get a rough surface to hopefully help the polymer clay to grab a little bit more. I don't know, it might be a little bit cheaper. Talking about PVA clay. Yeah, I'll have to give it a try. I'll have to put that on the list of things to try. The King Solomon marble sculpture was very impressive. Are you planning on doing some more realistic, naturalistic stuff in marble. Yeah, I'd like to. You know, it's just a big time investment. But I am planning on, like, I want to do a stone sculpting course. I'm kind of working on that, but it's a lot that goes into that. So I need to. I just need to set aside the time regularly to do those sculptures, do those realistic sculptures. It's just, you know, it's tricky. But when you put something in stone, you know, then it has a higher perceived value. So even simple designs, I feel like, are worth more when they're in stone, because it's such a difficult material to work with. Nice blocking work, impressive. Well, thank you, appreciate it. This one's, this one's going to be a little bit more simple, kind of a quicker gesture study. It's not going to get super detailed, but it should. But sometimes that simplification, you know, it conveys. You can convey a message even a little bit more succinctly when you're doing abstract. Like, abstract kind of gives you the idea of a person or of a relationship or something. It's like what am I trying to say? It's like it conveys the message in a way that's more succinct. Like emojis, you know, emojis are just an abstraction that removes everything that's unnecessary to convey the message of an emotion. So you don't need, you don't need the nose or the neck or like any of the details, of the realistic details, to convey the message of, you know, happy or sad or excited. You just need some very basic visual information to get the gist and to convey the message as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So abstractions are really good for that. When the message is not like trying to get the likeness of a specific person or anything like that, when the message is more an idea or a concept or a relationship between two figures, which is what this one is. Impressive, somebody says. Let's see. Nice, some simple, relaxing studies. Yeah, I enjoy these. Peaceful vibes, emotional thoughts. Let's see, so I want this leg to be a little bit turned. Yeah, I don't like how difficult it is to get that polymer clay to stick to the older stuff. Usually ends up sticking okay by the time it's all baked, but while I'm sculpting, I feel like it comes loose a little bit easier than I'd like. And I don't know if you can see, but I got some, like the lid from the epoxy, there was some red on it that got on my fingers, and then I wiped the sculpture. But then I actually liked how it looked. I don't know if you can see here, but there's like a little bit of red that was kind of brushed on just from when I was handling the sculpture, and I had like this residue from the lid of the epoxy, the plastic. So I don't know, maybe there's some way I could incorporate that accident but on purpose. So I kind of liked how that looked. It's fun when you find those little accidents that you're like, oh, maybe I should do something like that on purpose. Are you going to use the pointing technique in some future marble sculpture? Maybe. I saw a video on how to do a one-to-one portrait in clay using a point technique that was a little bit more simple, but you need a machine for it. You need it's like a little point. You need the point machine that has the little needle that you can adjust where it is and move it around, and then to get all the exact measurements. And I don't have that machine, and I haven't been able to find it. Haven't been able to find it online for sale on like eBay and stuff. So I need to see if I can find one or figure out a way to make a homemade version of that point machine to use that technique, because it requires that machine to do that. But I think it would be fun to try to transfer another sculpture. Yeah, I do need to do more realistic sculptures in marble. That's something that requires a lot of practice and time and patience. Amanda, could you check in the behind that curtain if there's the heat gun, the yellow heat gun? Sometimes when I'm working with the polymer clay, I would have a heat gun so that I can harden areas like right there on the spot, but I don't know where I left it. I used to have one. No? Okay. Thank you for looking. gonna score this as well, just this area with the knife, just to see if that'll help the clay stick a little bit better for this foot right here. That's something to stick on to. Yeah, but the point technique is cool. I would like to get a point machine eventually. I could use that technique. Amanda, would you be willing to go downstairs and see if the heat gun is on the table downstairs next to the tools? You can turn the light on downstairs if you want. Out there? Wonder where it went. turn the sound down a little bit. I don't know if you guys can hear that heater, but probably zoom out so you guys can see. So I guess I should mention my sculpting courses. If any of you are interested in learning sculpture, definitely encourage you to check out the Proco Figure Sculpting Fundamentals course at proco.com/sculpture. Proco is PROKO.com/sculpture. And that's kind of the beginner basics course that I recommend people start out with. Kind of gets you a foundation. And if you're using polymer clay, it shows you my favorite method for building wire armatures that are proportionate and accurate, and goes through the measurements of the body, and then basic sculpting principles that you should learn if you're going to try to represent people. We do a bunch of exercises, gesture studies, there's assignments on texturing, on different parts of the body, the primary forms of the pelvis, rib cage, and the head, and how to simplify those, and just a bunch of helpful stuff if you're interested in sculpting. So I hope you'll check those out. I try to mention those in every video. I know it gets monotonous, and you might get tired of hearing it, but that's how I provide for my family, and so I appreciate anybody that does support by getting those courses. There's also a portrait sculpting course that dives more into the details of the portrait, and then a hand sculpting course. As we all know, the hands are very difficult, so I figured we might as well have a course just dedicated to that. And so all those courses are available. There's links in the description. There's also an in-person sculpting workshop that I'll be holding coming up in June. So if you can make the trip to Iowa, you'd like to come to my home studio, there's the link in the description to sign up for that. And I hope to see some of you guys there in person for that workshop. That should be a fun event. So just wanted to get that advertisement out there, and a big thank you to anybody that supports the channel by either getting those courses or my ebooks, which I also recommend. I think they're very helpful. An Artist's X-Ray Vision. That's for anybody, whether you're interested in drawing, painting, or sculpting people. If you're interested in figurative art in people, then I recommend that ebook. It's just a good resource. It's just kind of a library of visual resources that I've found helpful, visual simplifications and things like that that I've found to be useful in my own experience. And I think I'll end up sanding these down. You can see some of the places where the aluminum is where the wire and epoxy was put together. And to darken the epoxy, I mixed in some stone dust from this black Utah marble. And that kind of allows the epoxy to be just a little bit harder. But I think I might sand down just to kind of blend this into the wire a little bit better. Just don't go in the front yard, okay? Just not in the front, okay? I mean, you can go in the house, but just don't play in the front yard. been a huge inspiration, Andrew. Keep up the amazing work. God bless. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. God bless. Hope you're able to create great things. That's what we should all be doing, right? Trying to create great things with the talents God's given us. Wish I could find my heat gun, because I like to, there's parts of this I'd like to heat up so that they harden, so that I can work on other, or so that I can go to different areas without messing up some of the work that I've done. That's kind of how I like to work with this type of clay. I'll have to go in and see if I can find it. I don't know where I left that heat gun. You kind of have to be careful, because if you heat up the surface too much, it can melt the surface. So you have to kind of be careful as you're doing that. But if you're careful, then you can kind of harden areas, and that way you're not messing up areas that you've already worked on as you're just holding it and moving it around. I'm currently working on a sculpture of Noah. Your videos have been an incredible tool, so thank you. Oh, that's very cool. Very interesting. Yeah, I'd like to do a series. I did, yeah, I've done, well, the King Solomon in stone, and then I did the Samson sculpture. It'd be fun to do just a series of different people from the Bible, different people from Scripture. A Bible series would be great. We can usher in a new age of Renaissance in art. Yeah, hopefully. I think it's already beginning. That Renaissance, a turning back towards the traditions, towards faith, towards the stories, the foundational stories that built our civilization. At least I hope that's the case. I think there's a lot of people that have tried to break down those traditions with some success in society. But I'm hoping that there's going to be a turning back toward those valuable stories and lessons of the past. It would be great to be a part of something like that. was the beauty of churches and sculpture and painting that led me to God. So hopefully by creating beautiful things, we can save more souls through Him. Yeah, beauty, it's interesting. Beauty and truth and God. In fact, I did a video, I don't know if you've seen it, but that great art, I don't remember the title of the video, but something along the lines of great art doesn't make sense without God. And one of the points that I made was that there's kind of a relationship between beauty, truth, and the transcendent, things that are beyond matter, like just the physical, observable reality that we see around us, that there's a connection between that and beauty. And so a lot of the times people that attack religion, that attack God, they'll purposefully make society and make themselves oftentimes more ugly, like on purpose. And so there's kind of I think there is a relationship between those things, that when you're seeking things that are beautiful, and that also leads you to truth, and it leads you to God ultimately. But then when you want to destroy God, you end up destroying things that are beautiful and things that are true. And so I think that it's an interesting philosophical relationship between those concepts, those not just concepts, but those realities. And it is very very interesting to think about, and I hope that it's true that we are in kind of a renaissance, a new era of art and appreciation of the classic traditions that brought about the success that we've seen in the last 200 years. Because with all the technological advancement, we've also become powerful enough to destroy. If we want to destroy things, we have the capability of destroying, life on Earth. So if we don't have the philosophical and ultimately religious foundation to justify, our civilization, then I think it could lead to some very dark and dangerous places with the amount of technology that we have nowadays. What type of clay are you using? This is a Super Sculpey. I think this one's the Super Sculpey original gray, but I also have some firm gray. I think I like the original, something that's not too hard. Though when it's soft, it makes it tricky, especially when you're holding it by hand and as you're moving around, then it can mess things up. But this is just a Super Sculpey, a basic polymer clay, pretty popular. Not super expensive when it comes to the types of polymer clay. This one's just a pretty basic common clay. I mean, polymer clay is more expensive than like plasticine clay or natural clay, just because it's a different process that makes it, and so it's a little bit more. But then you don't have to make a mold and cast it, which is one of the reasons I'm doing this commission project in polymer clay, because then I can just bake it and have a finished sculpture. You can even paint it if you wanted with acrylic paints. If you're comfortable sharing the approximate price you ask for different size sculptures you make. Yeah, well, usually I tell people that my commissions start at $1,000 if they want an original, like one-of-a-kind sculpture. This particular sculpture, I gave them a deal, and so I did it for about half that, a little bit less than half of that. But generally, I tell people that my commissions start at $1,000. So, but because this one was a smaller piece, and I was able to do it in polymer clay, and I had a lot of the materials that I needed, and things like the base, they were willing to use this base, which is a piece of stone that I cut off of another stone sculpture that I'm working on, and so I was able to save some money there. And so, I was able to, I had the materials basically, so I was willing to charge a little bit less for this one. But it depends on your, where you're at and what you value your time at and things like that. And I let them know that this would kind of be, it wouldn't be as detailed, kind of a quicker study. I mean, it still has some ways to go before I'm happy with it. I still want them to be happy with it, and I want it to be a well done, well thought out sculpture. But yeah, that's the price range that I usually do. And then it goes up. Stone commissions, stone sculptures are usually more than that. That would probably be the $2,000 to $3,000 range for a custom stone sculpture, depending on the size. Could be much more. If you're talking about a life size, like if there's a life size King Solomon sculpture, that one, it might be maybe in the $10,000 range for a commission that size. Because then I have to think about things like the price of the stone itself, transporting the stone, shipping, just the labor costs and everything go up from there. So it really depends on what the patron envisions as their project and what the finished medium is going to be in. Stone's one of the hardest, so that would be one of the most expensive. Must have watched your video on God and art about 3 times now, and I made my wife watch it too. Well, that's great. Yeah, that's yeah, and some of the comments disagreeing with the points that I made, because I tried to be pretty thorough, laying out like why I feel like this is the case, that great art and God are connected, and I thought I kind of laid out that case over the length of the video, and then people that disagree are just like, this is dumb, or like this is like the dumbest thing. I thought this was a joke. I'm like, well, that's if you feel I'm wrong, like what premise and what argument was I wrong about? Like what part of the argument is, where's the logical fallacy that I'm engaging in, or what part of the argument? But I didn't get a lot of arguments like that. A lot of people saying like, oh, you don't have to believe in God to make great art, which isn't a claim that I made. I said that obviously there are great artists that don't believe in God. I just pointed out that the justification for a society investing the time and energy to create great works of art is generally done in societies that have a moral and religious justification for that amount of dedication. Which I think is true. You made a great case. Atheism can logically only lead to nihilism. There's no fruits of nihilism. Well, I think, I don't know if there's no fruits of nihilism, but I'd say that the fruits of nihilism are not good, that it's bad fruit. So nihilism or the belief that nothing that you do matters, you're going to do something. So a lot of the people that become nihilistic, they end up wanting to destroy things because they feel like, well, it would be better for existence just to end. And so I think a lot of the, things like the uptick in school shootings and other serious evils that we see, a lot of that is not fueled by hate necessarily, but by nihilism, but by the feeling that nothing matters, so why not do something that'll at least make you infamous. And so I'd say that the fruits of nihilism are not good fruit. But that's like a lot of the atheist, agnostic types. They think that you can just replace religion with nothing, and that all of society's problems will be fixed. And I find very little evidence for that in history or in our current situation. I don't think replacing, well, religion, whatever offends you when somebody makes fun of it, that's your religion. That's your religious philosophy. That's what you hold sacred. So when people say, "Oh, I'm not religious," but then if I say, you're a whatever, I could say, "Oh, you're a Darwinist, so you believe that rocks turn into people if you just wait a long time." if I caricature Darwinism, which is like a popular philosophy, a lot of people would just say like, oh, Darwinism is just true. But if I caricature that and say, oh, you just believe that rocks turn into people, which is technically, that's technically accurate, that Darwinists believe that if you wait a long time, that rocks can turn into people. But then that would offend a lot of people, if they believe in unguided Darwinism. And I'm not talking about, there's some people that are religious, even Bible believing, that believe that there was some sort of, that God just kind of used a Darwinian process to create life on Earth and to modify things and create life from non-life and all of these things that are hard to explain. And I find that much more reasonable than the belief in unguided Darwinian evolution. That is to say, evolution that started from like spontaneous life emerging from non-life and then improving itself until it turned into us. I find that to be unlikely. Not just unlikely, it's like what are the odds that that natural causes would create a beautiful symphony, or a computer, or an iPhone? What are the odds that unguided natural processes of wind, erosion, and other things would put together a computer? You could say, oh, well, it's unlikely. It's not just unlikely, it's impossible. And the life forms, even simple life forms, are more complex than our most advanced computers at this point. But even if we were able to create computers that are more advanced than some primitive life forms, or even if we were able to create life from non-life, we would be doing that as intelligent agents acting on the physical world, and so that would only prove that you need an intelligent agent to create life from non-life. So yeah, I don't find atheism, agnosticism to be a convincing worldview. Though it is popular, it's a popular view. Especially among artists, it seems like nowadays, which is interesting, So you'd think if God and great art went together, then artists would be more inclined towards that, but I think you find the opposite. So that's an interesting conundrum in and of itself. Why, if you need God for great art, why are artists often atheist or agnostic or leftist? The arts are generally more left-leaning. So could you share your journey as a sculptor from discovering your interest in learning? Yeah, well, my journey in sculpting, I had some art classes in junior high and high school, a couple art classes, and I always liked art. I always liked drawing and painting, and mostly drawing people. I wasn't particularly good, but I really liked, I liked Proco early on because I was interested in drawing. I was interested in the physical, in figurative representation. And so, but I didn't get into sculpting until college. Originally in college, I was going for pre-physical therapy. Somebody at one point said, oh, I think you'd be a good physical therapist. And so I was like, oh, well, that sounds like a decent way to make a living, and I could help people, and I enjoy physical exercise and kind of motivating people and helping people. And physical physical training is often, you're helping people recover from injuries or things like that. And you also get to learn about anatomy and other topics. And so it was something that I felt like I would be good at, working with people. And so that's what I started as. And then I took a sculpting class, and I would take all the art classes I could, as far as you have to take a certain amount of different credits. And I would just, if I had an empty spot, I would just always fill it with art classes. Then I took a sculpting class, and I just really enjoyed it. And I don't know, I felt drawn to try to make art work. And I don't even know if it was a good choice, financially. I'd probably be more financially successful if I chose something else, either the physical therapy, or even if I just did things like construction or other things, which I don't mind. I've been doing a lot of construction, trying to fix up the studio, and there's something worthwhile about fixing things and making things better and building. So financially, I don't know if it was the best decision, but that is what drew me. And then I just figured, I just love this too much. I'd probably be miserable if I tried to force myself to do anything else. So I decided I would go for it. And then while I was in college, I switched my major over to sculpture. And while I was in college, I reached out to Stan Prokopenko over at Proko, said, hey, have you guys thought about doing a sculpting course? And he liked the idea. And so I started working on that in college. And that was like a big project. It was basically like writing a book. And it was before you could just go to ChatGPT and say like, hey, write me a video lesson on whatever, on simplifying the rib cage or whatever it is. You had to go through and actually write things, which now is just, that's history. Who does that anymore? You just get AI to spit out something, and then you can edit that. And I don't blame people for doing that now. In fact, I think it's a great resource. It's a great way to get just kind of words on a page started, and then you can, tweak it and make it into something worthwhile. But that's kind of how I got started. And then I did the figure sculpting fundamentals course, is what we started with, and it was really fun. And then I finished that up and went to the next one. But that was a lot of work. It was like 2 years of working just to, it was like 2 years before I had my first paycheck, before the course was released, and I was able to get paid for it. So if you can imagine working a part-time job or writing a book for 2 years before you get paid, it's difficult. So that's kind of, anything creative kind of generally requires some of that upfront investment that can be time-consuming and difficult. I have to go now, but I can't wait to see this finished sculpture. It already looks incredible. I probably wouldn't be sculpting if I hadn't found your videos. Oh, well, thank you, and I hope you find success in the works that you create, and I hope you can create beautiful things. And I appreciate the comments, conversation. So that's kind of my my art journey of being interested in art, which is just kind of a natural thing. If you're interested in art, it's not something that you necessarily choose to be interested in. It's just like you just have that interest. You just are. You're just kind of built that way. At least that's how it is for me. I don't know about for you guys, but that's how I feel. That it's not like I was like, oh, I think I'll choose to be interested in art. It's just I was just interested in it. I just wanted to do it. Every now and then I doubt myself with sculpting too. Yeah, well, maybe well, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing something that's, that is able to fund your creative process, and if you have a family that's able to fund it in like having a normal job. If you can, you might look for a job in the arts. A lot of people go and work at foundries. That's a popular thing for sculptors, to go and work at foundries to help other artists turn their work into permanent sculptures. And so that's one way to potentially get into that space. And then sometimes you can, cast some of your own stuff on your own time, and it's kind of a way to get in. I know a lot of people that have started to bronze their own work because they were able to work at a foundry. So I'd say that that's worthwhile if you're inclined. And being able to just build things is really helpful. I think good sculptures are good in drawing and painting too, but interest in drawing and paint, but not something that my mind could express in that medium. I don't know if I understand the last part, but yeah, definitely drawing, being able to see a line and represent it, it's definitely a valuable skill for sculptors, for sure. So if you're a sculptor, and I need to get back into drawing. So I started drawing and I was doing really well, and I was doing some drawing live streams with this channel, and then I was like, oh, I'm being pretty consistent, so I'll start another channel where I just do drawing. Then I started that channel and then I stopped completely. So I guess 2 channels was just like too much for my brain. I was like, now that I have another channel, I'm gonna not do it because it's like a whole other channel. So maybe I just need to keep going with the live streams on this channel, the drawing live streams, because I do like drawing. I think drawing's a good skill to have, and it's more accessible. Drawing is generally more easier to get into than sculpting. You don't need as much space as well. What references for this sculpture do you have? So they sent a sculpture that they liked that was very similar, but it was just from one angle. It was a pose that was like that. There was 2 people kind of embracing. The arms were a little bit different. The legs were different. So I just kind of used that as inspiration. But for the most part, I've just been doing this from imagination mostly. So obviously, if it was a bigger commission and I had the budget for it, it would be good to get like actual models. And if I was doing like a big piece, then I might go for that. But for these smaller sculptures that, you know, a smaller commission, it's just kind of a gesture from imagination, really just trying to get the feel of these, you know, the embrace. And I think the emotion, even though, you know, it's still very simple, I think the emotion of that embrace comes through that kind of hug. And the reference, the original sculpture, was also kind of simplified. It was not a super detailed sculpture. And I think the person reached out to the artist of that other piece. I don't remember. They sent who the artist was, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But that artist, you know, the piece was in bronze and was a lot more expensive, understandably, because bronze is more expensive to cast than polymer clay. So then they reached out to me to see if I could do a work inspired by that. And I said, yeah, but I got to do it in my own style. So pretty much I've been just working from imagination and doing my own style. So I wouldn't want to just, you know, copy somebody else. I mean, the design's kind of similar in that there's like a ring around the people and they're hugging, but I try not to use it too much as a reference. Yesterday, as a family, we watched Back to the Future. That's a classic, the first one. I was thinking about it, I like the message of the, you know, where it shows, you know, the family's kind of just kind of living, and they're kind of, you know, the mom is an alcoholic and the dad's just kind of a pushover and doesn't stand up for himself, and so they're kind of just living below their potential. And then, you know, when Marty goes back in time and then changes the course of events and pushes his dad to stand up against a bully, then, you know, that event allowed his dad to become more, you know, push himself to do more than he would have otherwise. And then, you know, they come back to the present, or 1985, their present, and then his life is just better. You know, they've got their lives together more, and his brother and sister are more responsible, and his mom and dad are like more in love and affectionate towards one another and more grateful. And so I like the message that there's like a potential, you know, we all have the potential inside of us that if we could reach, we would be more than what we are. I don't know if that, you know, that's not an explicit, it doesn't explicitly say that, but it just kind of, that was something that I don't remember walking away with that impression on past viewings, but this last time watching it, I did get that sense of, oh, like this is a positive message of, like you could be more if you could reach your potential. Hello guys, is this plastic or mud? This is polymer clay. Some of it's hardened, so this part that I'm using an X-Acto knife to carve away is something that I've already baked. So some parts are hard, some parts are still soft. The camera you use is very high quality too. It looks like a movie. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's probably not just the camera, it's also the lighting. So I have a big softbox. In fact, I can show you guys. Just because lighting makes a really big difference. So if you look up here, I have like a giant softbox that I made. It's just made with some 2x4s and some shop lights, and then I put some plastic that's like the plastic that you put on tablecloths. Just like the cheap tablecloths that are kind of see-through, translucent, or sometimes you can find, what do you call them? Shower curtains or things on the dollar store. But I just made a big soft box, and that really helps to soften the light and makes it look more professional. So I definitely recommend putting together something like that. So as somebody says, cool. Yeah, it really does make a difference when you. The lighting makes a huge difference. So hopefully, I'm gonna try to finish up this sculpture today, if I can. Yeah. I don't know. Should I give him a call? Maybe. Okay, come on. All right, that is time for breakfast. So this is going to be it for this live stream. Again, check out the links in my bio if you're interested in learning sculpting. You're welcome to join the online sculpting courses over at Proca.com. I really encourage you to do that. If you enjoy sculpting, then I think you'll find those courses to be helpful. I'm probably going to go and bake this again, and then I'll do some carving away, removing some material. But it's coming along slowly, and yeah, I'll try to finish this today if I can, because that would be great to have this done. But we'll see how far we get. All right, stay creative, stay productive. Hopefully I'll see you again soon in another video or another live stream.